Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to cut out this Father Christmas Santa Claus with a scroll saw. Basically going to remove all the white sections here, just leaving the thin black line. So it's a little bit delicate little operation, should we say, today, so we've got to be a bit careful. And for the first time we're actually going to use, it's 3mm, I'm guessing MDF. It's basically, if I can just squeeze it in, it's this stuff here that you would get on the back of a picture frame. Now I've had a large frame that had got damaged, so we've got plenty to play with, and it's roughly 3mm. I've more or less guessed because I've put the CNC bit, which is a 3mm. If I just grab on quickly, basically one of these, that is 3.175. I basically laid it against a piece of MDF, we're going to call it, and it's more or less 3mm. So it's a little bit thin, so it's going to be a little bit fragile, so we're going to have to go steady. To be honest, I've never cut this stuff out before. This is a first for me, and it's only because what I've got lying around in the shed. Now normally you would place painter's tape, the blue stuff at the top, over your wood, plywood, MDF, whatever you want to use. Spray some spray paint, glue on there. I've been using this one personally, and then you would stick your pattern down. But for today it was a little bit warmer inside, so I took my time, went inside and literally popped on carbon paper and traced it out. It takes a matter of a couple of minutes, and you can just see from that, there's our image there, all nicely done. Now if this doesn't work, we'll try it on some thicker piece and we will glue it down next time. But that way we've also got that template. And I like to use a biro. You can't really see it there, but it just shows up better against the black. So there's our template ready. Like I say, on 3mm. I'm going to go for MDF. It might be totally something different. If you want to drop me a comment and let me know, I have no issues with that whatsoever. So the idea is to remove all these inner sections. Once that's all nicely done, we'll pop it on a backer. I'm going to use a 5.5 plywood. I've just got a piece here. This is what I use on my other projects, and that's got a good thickness to it. So when we've cut it all out, we will actually glue it onto that like so, and we'll cut out the full piece all together, and then we're going to fill in each section with the appropriate colours of acrylic paint mixed with a resin. So nice white beard, red jacket, black boots, and the white and the red, and so on and so on. Obviously before we get to that, we need to cut it out. Now to get inside these inner sections, we're going to have to drill holes. So there's plenty of holes to drill. They're what they call pilot holes. And that's simply for when you get your blade, you can feed it into the hole you've made, and we can cut out this section. Remove the blade, pop it into the next hole, cut out, cut out, cut out. And hopefully these little sections will all stay together. Now you notice on here we have some what they call floaters. Now floaters are basically pieces that are floating about. They're not attached to anything. We're okay around the face here, but you notice that section of the mouth and the eyes, and there's one there and one there, and the buckle itself. They're what they call floaters. So we're going to cut those out, be steady, put them to one side, and then we pop our bit of resin in, or glue or whatever. We can glue them in place, and then we'll fill in around it. So keep hold of these little pieces. The eyes will be a little bit small, and these little eyebrows there. So we'll have to look out for those floaters, remember. Now, for me personally, I like to use a spiral blade. Spirals are fantastic. They cut in any direction. If we just get that in focus, we're going to have it. There you go. The teeth are spiraled the full length. And like any blade, they want to be smooth on the way down. That one's the wrong way around, see? Smooth on the way down. And you feel that roughness on the way up. That way you've got your blade in the right way. So pegas number 5 spiral for me. Unfortunately, with my little old Draper scroll saw, I have to use these adapter clamps, and they are a pain, to be honest, because you've got to pop that in there, tighten it with an Allen key, top and bottom, like so, and then I have to clip it on my scroll saw. And then we come to the next hole. I've got to take the tension off, get the Allen key, take that off, feed it into the next one, put that back on, get the Allen key, and so on. And it's a slow process. That's because my saw only takes pin blades. If you are going to purchase a scroll saw, purchase one that takes pinless blades and save yourself a lot of trouble, a lot quicker without the adapters. Here is the pin blade we're talking about. These will come on your more basic saws. Now you will get away with this one, it's probably a little bit chunky, and I don't think there's any pieces that are too small that we can't fit it in. We'll get in there with it, and we'll even just to say squeeze in there. But normally you'll drill your pilot hole, because those pins in the way on smaller pieces you won't be able to use it. You imagine you want to cut out the eye section, instead of cutting around it, which we're going to do, you want to cut out the inside, you wouldn't get in with that blade because those pins are in the way. So they use pinless blades. Now these are just like little needles. These are fantastic. Personally myself, I can't use these, they're just a bit too fine for me. So that's a pinless blade. Now that would fit those clamps just as easy. I would have to pop that in there, tying it all up. But these are so small, and obviously you've got no pins on. They will fit into the smallest areas you can find. So it's a choice with blades, pinned, pinless should I say. There is some fancier ones out there, reverse tooth I believe, something like that, but I never use them, so I can't really comment. So for me, good old Pegas spiral blade. So we'll cut out all these sections. If you prefer, you can go around and mark out what you want to remove. The last thing you want to do is come along and take out that section there, because that basically will be the end of your project. So there's all our little bits we're going to remove today with those scribbles on. Before that, we'll drill our pilot holes, set it up on the scroll saw, and basically we'll start cutting this one out. Right, so we've drilled all our pilot holes. Personally myself, when I drill the holes, I try and go as big as you can. It just makes it easier for the scroll saw to actually get fed in from underneath when I do mine. And personally, I like to go into the centre of the piece, because depending on what kind of wood you've got, if you have any tear out at the back, or any bits that get ripped off, plywood or anything, you could tear the back a little bit. That's not going to interfere with your piece there, because you've done it in the middle. If you go, some people like to drill really towards the line. They think they haven't got far to go across before they start cutting. And then obviously the angle of the cut, because I just use a large drill. To be honest, a little Dremel would have gone through this stuff, it's that soft. But for a drill, I've been known to drill in at an angle. So you might start there, and it might come out over here at the back, if that makes sense, and go right underneath. So I always try and go central of each section, basically doing the biggest I can do with the hole. Why make it hard by doing the smallest drill piece than trying to fill the blade into it? But we all have our own little separate range. Right, that's all nicely done now. Now it's a time to start cutting it out with our Pegas number 5 spiral blade, and hopefully it will all stay together. Let's give it a go and see if it works. Right, so we've fed the spiral blade through the pilot hole. We're ready to cut our first section out. Remember, the spirals are just my choice of blade. Straight blades or pin blades will work on this project just as easy. I do find with spiral blades, we won't have a lot of turning of the wood. With standard blades, you'll have to feed that down, turn it, feed it, turn it, and so on. Whereas this one, we can basically just go around like that and cut it that way. Now remember, this is MDF, so you want proper masks on and stuff. This dust can be a bit lethal. Not something I normally use, but it's just what I have at hand today. So please get your masks on and get it sorted. Right, let's start cutting a few of these out. Once we've done a couple, it's basically the same thing. So we'll speed things up again. And hopefully, once we've done all our inner cuts, it will all still be in one piece. And then we can focus on actually cutting it out and cutting out the backer at the same time. Be it either the same size as this one, or we'll go around with a little washer, just give it a little border all the way around. We'll see what that's like towards the end. But for now, let's just start cutting a few of these out, and we can speed things up a bit. Right, there's all our initial inner cuts, all nicely done. You'll notice there, if we can do it without knocking anything, we've cut out all our little floaters. If I can just get that in there, remember this little section here, look, that's all loose, so we need to glue that in place. The buckle, that all came out, so we need to glue that in place on the backer board. And even his little eyes there, look, so we keep hold of those. We want to lose those. They took some cutting out, and there's a little section there. So they're what we call our little floaters. So if you just remove the section that we've cut out, you can see from that, that's all nicely cut out, and it's near enough. Remember, just 3mm MDF I'm going to go for. Basically just cheap backer that comes with one of your little frames from the market. So it didn't cost anything. But there's our little floaters there, so we want to keep hold of all those. We'll keep them to one side. We want to paint them the same colour as the actual framework later. So keep hold of those. Now the only issue I did have, and I will show you, I cut out this section here, which is going to be round his moustache. And I'd actually cut it out, but I went back in with the blade to have a nibble, and that section popped off. And I searched high and low, and I could not find it. So basically, I just put the paper back on a bit of scrap and cut it out separately. You might just see we've glued it across here, and that's solid enough. Once we've got our stain on there or dye, we're not going to see that. And I won't tell anybody if you don't. Now originally this would be my backer. I was going to go for the 5.5 plywood, but as it's just a little fun project and will only come out at Christmas time. I think once we've got those two pieces together, that will give us 6mm. That's going to be enough. Now your options are, you could glue this together, a couple of dabs, not interfering with the main character. Some folk just put tape down either side, and you can cut out the two pieces at the same time. So we're going to cut all the way around that line to give you the nice shape of what we want, and then that would be your inner backer. And remember, we'd come back with our little floaters here, little floaters, and stick them in afterwards. But this one, I just want to give it a slightly extra framework. So the idea is we will cut this out separately, then we'll pop it back on the backer. Remember, all this outer section will have been removed, and then we will literally just get a little washer and run round the whole thing like so, and hopefully that will give us a slightly bigger backer than the actual piece itself. So you've got options to cut it out exactly the same size, or we'll put a different frame on, just slightly wider, and we can do a darker backer and then lighter stain, and then we can fill it all in with resin. So I think that's the option we're going to go for. So we'll cut this out quickly, pop it on there, onto the backer, remember, go around with our washer, and then we'll cut that out, and then we'll give it a general tidy up, and then we'll be on to staining and resin. Let's just cut out the original template first. Right, so remember, we've cut it all out. That was no problem. We managed to keep it all intact. And you can see from there, just starting to get a little bit fragile now. So we've got to be a bit careful and go steady. So next stage now is to do the backer. Remember, we could either have cut it the same size by sticking two pieces together, but I want to go just slightly larger with this one. Not a lot. So the idea is we simply pop that on there, keep it in place, put a bit of tape on. Look, something that's maybe not too fragile, something we can pull off later. We'll just pop a bit of tape on there like so, and that should be enough just to hold it all in place. Let's pop a little bit on there as well, just to make sure it doesn't run away on us. And that's enough what we need. Now we're simply just going to go around it with our little washer. For me personally, I just use the one that comes on the end of the sanding drum. So I simply just unscrew the little screw there, and there's your little washer to do whatever you need to do. So we're simply going to place it in there. Keep the pressure on as you go around, because it will disappear under. If you wanted a wider backer, pick a wider frame. It's just going to be a simple case, if I can do this without getting in the way of the camera, of going around it. Let me get myself sat down, it might be a little bit better. So just keep that pressure on and keep that in there, and literally we're just going to draw around like so. Just follow it all the way around. It's a bit soft with the MDF stuff, and literally just follow all the way around like so. And that's just going to give us a nice enough space to cut out our little backer like so. On there. Okay, we get the general idea from that. It's very delicate, this one. Normally I've used thicker pieces of wood. So I'll come back in a minute when we've not bored you too much with this one. Right, so we've made it all the way around with our little washer. Now it's just a simple case of removing our bits of tape here. And hopefully that'll come off there. That's no problem. Keep that little washer. We'll save that for another project. Into the little box over there. Just gently remove that. And you can see there, just about make out the full backer that we're going to cut out next. So we'll cut this out quickly. And then we'll go around with a bit of sandpaper. Just get rid of any fluffies or anything. It's not been too bad. It's quite soft is this. So I'll literally just turn it over. A bit of sandpaper like that. You'll see from that I've already done the front section. We have no pencil marks left or anything. And then we'll just do these side bits. Just get a little tidy up, and then we'll be ready to put on the stain or paint or whatever we're going to do. But let's just cut out that backer first. Right, there's our backer all nicely cut out. Certainly no issues with that. Cuts out really nice, and there's our little piece here waiting. There's a couple of little pencil lines, so we'll just get a bit of sandpaper. If you turn it over, you can just see the little fuzzies there, and it takes a matter of seconds to do. People complain about the cut not being as nice on these spiral blades, but I've certainly got no issues with them, and it takes minutes, if seconds, and we've basically gone round the full piece now, and that's our little fuzzy bits more or less done. I will go around this top section here, just remove those pencil lines, but you'll get the general idea from that. So once I've done my little bit of tidying up, that backer will be ready. We can just find the main one to go on top. So that will just sit on there nicely like so. And once you get it in place, you'll just find we've got just a nice little framework that's slightly oversized in comparison with the rest of the project. And once all that's all stained and glued down, not forgetting our little floaters, we have them to put on afterwards, and our little project will be getting somewhere near the finishing line. Right, I'll give it tidy up and then we'll come back for the next stage. Right, so we've got everything to hand, what we need. If you remember that little clip I just showed you then, I mentioned the floaters, which are basically the buckle, two sections for the feet, his little eyes, a couple of eyebrows, and the mouth section. Now I couldn't find them when I looked around. If I can just turn my camera slowly, I do apologise for this technology. You just see that little bag in the distance here. Now all the little eyes, they're all sat in there, and they were sat on that shelf above. If I can just turn this up slowly. Apologise for the mess, but it's all my mess. Now this little container was actually sat on there, and with the vibrations and whatever we have, it came forward and actually fell into the bin below. So it fell into the little plastic bag on the floor there with all those inside. So I've had a bit of a rummage around and it's full of stuff, but I took my time, and believe it or not, we actually managed to find all the pieces. So that saves cutting those out again. So I've stuck those to a bit of tape there, just keep them in place. They will be stained with the 2 stains I have. Now, if you know from previous videos, I literally just have a dark stain, and we're going to do the backer with that. I'll just move this over quickly. There will be a dark teak wood dye for the backer, and a light teak wood dye for the actual frame itself, and all the little bits that go with it. And once that's all nicely dried, we're basically going to put resin on this, or brush it to the back of the main section, and we're going to stick that down, leave it overnight, and then basically fill it all in afterwards. Now, I don't know what this stain's going to be like on this. We'll have a quick go here, and I won't bore you because it's plenty dusty. Just a simple case of brushing it on, and we want those side sections and all. So you can see it's going to really soak in straight away, look. Now, there is MDF sealers out there which you can purchase first, but I want it to soak in, and hopefully that will be enough. We'll let it dry, and we might have to go over it again. Remember, we want to get all those side bits done as well. So I'll cover these both quickly, not to bore you too much. And when we come back, hopefully we will be on for sticking it down. And it's just as easy to do the full piece, even though on this one, all we're going to see is basically that edge. But those side bits are more important to get those. Okay, we're back in a minute. Right, that's our 2 bits nicely stained up. We've also done the back on that, just to say we've thrown a bit on. And it's going to dry fairly quick, is that. And we did an extra layer just around the outside. Because remember, once our other section goes on top, we're only going to see that little section round the edge. So, still a bit damp, is that. So we'll leave that to dry nicely. And obviously we've done the same with our surround here, you can more or less see. And obviously we've done those little floaters, so they'll sit on there. Once they're nicely dry, we can peel them off. And when we come to glue it all down, we can fit them all in place nicely. Right, that's it. We'll leave this for a couple of hours. We have other things to do today. When we come back, we can start putting it all together. Right, everything's nice and dry now. I've got issues with this MDF. I've actually tried to put some wood glue on the back of that, and it's all just soaking in and soaking in. So we're going to try and seal it with something. Now, there is MDF sealers you can go out and purchase. A little tin full like that, and put it on, and it will seal it all nicely. Obviously, we don't have any of that, having not worked with MDF in a long, long time. So I'm literally just going to chance my luck and spray the full thing with some nice clear gloss. 1, hopefully it might give it a bit of a shine, but 2, the varnish might just help seal it. And we'll try and get inside these inner sections here, and not forgetting our little floaters down here on our piece of board. We'll see if it works. I did try and stick this down with the wood glue, but like I say, by the time I've gone around it all soaked. So hopefully we can just spray like that. And we'll go over it a couple of times. 1, hopefully it will seal it, and 2, it will just give it a little bit of a shine. We'll let that soak in, and then I'll go over it a couple of more times. You can see how it's soaking in there, look. So it will take 3 or 4 attempts. Once it's all nicely sprayed up and sealed, we can definitely get on to putting some resin down just to seal it all together. Right, come back when we finish this. Right, a little bit of resin time. Obviously, if resin is not your thing, you might try doing the glue down again, but remember, you've got to go around every piece, because if you miss a little section, when we put the coloured resin in, you can be guaranteed it will find it. So we sprayed a bit of varnish on. I don't really think it's achieved too much, but it certainly feels a bit more solid, if that makes sense, and hopefully it won't soak in too much of this resin. I'm just going to put it on a little board here, just in case there's a run over the edges. The idea now is to mix a bit of resin, and I'm literally just going to cover the full piece, taking it right to the edge. You can use the back of a spoon. You might have to sacrifice a brush. We're going to brush it right to the edge and then eventually stick that down. And then we'll get our little floaters, remember, and we'll stick them all in place. And then we'll come back tomorrow and do the same procedure with the resin, but this time we'll add acrylic paint and basically just start filling each section in. But for now though, we're just going to mix a bit. It's Vista 1 resin for me. It's a 1-to-1 resin, so basically whatever you use of your resin, you have exactly the same amount of B, your hardener. Some resins you mix by volume, some resins you mix by weight, some resins are 2-to-1, 3-to-1, and so on and so on. I just use these little plastic party cups. I got 3 for A, and obviously 3 for B. Mix them together, and we're just going to put it on here. We'll talk better about the resin when we come to the colouring side of things. So I'll mix them quickly offline should I say, off camera, and then when we're ready, we'll put some on here, stick it all together, and then we'll come back tomorrow, and hopefully we can start filling it in. I'll mix some first. Okay, so we've mixed a little bit of resin up there. Now we're basically just going to put a nice little thin layer on this. Nothing too fantastic. We don't want to go over the top, but we don't want to be too tight. And I'm hoping this is not going to soak in too much into the, we're going to call it MDF, whatever it is that we're using. So we just pop a little bit on there like so. We won't need a lot. I do have a little project going for that bit that's left over, so we don't have any wastage here. And we're just going to spread that around. When you hold it up to the light, you get a nice reflection of it like there. So you can see where you've been and where you've missed. So you might get away with that. If not, we use our little paintbrush. I can find it somewhere, and we'll continue with this. So here's our little brush. You can just brush it just as easy. Please remember, put your gloves on. You want a proper mask and plenty of ventilation. But you see there, if you're getting the right light, we can just brush that up right to the end there. And that's going to also give us a nice shine on that section there that's left. Straight to the edges there. Some projects you could run it over the edges. We don't want it on this one because it's such a thin piece. It's only 3mm thick, this, remember. Okay, you can see from there, look, we're giving it a nice covering. I'll come back in a minute when it's all been nicely covered. Right, there's all our piece nicely covered. You can see from that we've got a nice shine all the way around, and hopefully that will be enough to keep our template there, the rest of it, in place. Now just a simple case of just popping it on. We've got plenty of time to move it about and find out where we want it. Come down a little bit there. There. That'll do. We got lucky there. Just press it down all the way. Let them two bits hopefully will bond together. That looks pretty central to me. We'll go with that one. And obviously while it's still wet, we can start popping in all our other little sections. I do have a little pair of tweezers here. Should need them to get them popped in there like so. You just drop that there, move it about, press it down, and hopefully that'll stop in place. Then we'll move on to the next bit, and so on and so on. We can pop his little mouth in there. Down we go. Pop that in place. Somewhere near enough. There, that'll do for me. Right, I'll do the rest of it. And when we come back, we'll put a bit of weight on it and we'll put it to one side for 24 hours. Right, that's the last piece in there. So hopefully that should all stay in place when the resin nicely cures. So we just get something nice and flat on top. One more look. Yes, all seems to be in order. We'll place it on there and pop a bit of weight on, like so. And that will do us. We'll leave that for 24 hours When we come back, hopefully it's all nicely set and we basically just start filling it in. We'll come back in 24 hours. Right, so it's a good 24 hours later. We've took the little weight off and so far it all looks nicely intact, and hopefully we managed to seal all those little side bits here. You notice on top there, look, because we put such a thin layer on, it's not covered everything, and we want that to our advantage. That's going to give us something for the resin to bond to, as well as sticking to the sides, hopefully. So remember, we only wanted a thin layer on just to make sure that we've sealed it all the way around. We only have one way to find out, and that is literally just to fill it in now. So it's the same process as before, remember. A for your resin, B for your hardener, 1-to-1 mix, so whatever the amount of A we put in to our little A container, we put exactly the same amount of B, the hardener, and literally just mix the two together. And then we'll have some separate containers and just pour a little bit in each time. I'm going to go for 4. These little plastic things are ideal. They have little grooves up, and I've gone up 4 for the A, and obviously 4 for the B. Mix it all, and then we're going to use acrylic paints. There's little sans serif, basically white, red, black for his boots and gloves, and his little buckle there. They might want a bit of yellow in there or some of this mustard coloured, but we'll see as we go on. So we'll start off with the red first, I think, just to do those little sections here. So remember, we're going to work quickly, but you do have enough time. And if we run out, we can always mix a bit more, better than just mixing too much and wasting it. So I'll mix it all off camera as before. We'll pop a bit of red in and basically just start filling this one in. Side. And hopefully we'll have enough in here to do our red. For mixing, I've just been out and got these cheap plastic spoons. I normally have the white ones, but we couldn't find them today. And they're ideal because they do have a little groove at the back. And that's spot on for when we want to just fill in each section. So now, acrylic paint, we'll start off with the red. I'm hoping there'll be enough in there for that one. And just in case of putting a little bit in, they do say 10% of whatever you're mixing. Personally myself, I'll just put in what I think I need for the project. And if it's not thick enough, you can always add a little bit more. Once you start filling this in, I will speed things up because basically you're just doing the same procedure over and over again. Now with the original template for this one, just to make sure I do get the colours right, I've literally got this to one side and I've marked off the red and the white and the blacks just to make sure we get it right. And whatever colour we're going to use to do his face, be a bit pinky, bit of tinge to it or something like that. So we keep that to one side. There's our red done. So we can start off with his jacket there, and if you just put a little bit in like that, and if it doesn't look red enough, we can always add a bit more. Now I'm going to go with that. That looks happy enough. Get a little cocktail stick. This will just help it on its way like so. Nice and steady. Once we've filled it all in, you can put a bit in there. Leave that like so. Want another red section up here. And there. We're going to need a little bit in his hat as well, like so. And as we're playing with one, hopefully this start leveling itself out. And there's a little bit of red in there as well. Bit delicate on that one. Well steady. Is it that one? Yep, that one there. Nearly put it into his belt then, so you've got to be a bit careful. This allows just to trickle a bit in, like so. And there's a little section over in that corner. I do know that one there. Right. We get the general idea from that. And like I say, we'll go around and just help fill it all in. Like so. We don't want to go to the top. We still want to be able to feel that we've cut this out on a scroll saw. I think that's going to be near enough for us. Right, let's speed things up. And when we come back, we'll be ready to go over the top with a lighter just to release those air bubbles. But we'll show you that nearer the time. Okay, let's fill this one in. Right, that's all nicely filled in now, and lucky enough we've had no leakages, and you more or less see from there. So far so good. Now, as I've been putting each separate colour in, we'll just skim over with a lighter, and all this does is help release any air bubbles that are popping up. And you can do it a couple of times as you go through the project. You won't do it any harm. And that's it. And that's all we can do for now. So find a cover. You definitely want to cover these pieces up. Leave it 24 hours. And then when we come back, hopefully this little project will be finished. We'll come back in 24 hours. Right, it's about 24 hours later. Personally, I would leave this for 2 or 3 more days just to make sure. But you can see from that, everything's nice and solid. And we've had no leakages. And everything's kept to plan. And we've had no issues whatsoever. Personally, with it being MDF, we had more trouble as regards to it soaking in and stuff. So I think plywood would be a better option. But remember, this was just a bit of backer that came from a picture frame. So it didn't cost anything, and we're certainly not wasted anything. And you can see from there, if we get a bit nearer, there we go. Everything's fine. We've got lovely shine on him. And it's all gone the way it should have done on this little project. So that's it. So it's little Santa Claus there, Father Christmas or whatever. It comes in at 10 inches by 8 inches across. We cut it out with a Pegas number 5 spiral blade, just on recycled MDF, we're going to call it. And then we inlaid it all with resin, mixed with acrylic paints, Crawford and Black acrylic paints. And that's it. This little project is finished. Thank you very much for watching.